Hello friends and welcome. We have a bit of a cozy setup today. I don't know, it felt right with how snowy and stressful everything is. Wanted to just invite you into this cozy space. My name is Megan, and today I want to take you on a little walkthrough of what January looked like in my journals. A couple weeks ago, I made a video announcing my big journal system for the year, my 3-notebook system. We have a planner for planning, obviously, my regular kind of everything notebook for what I call doing, and then my other Hobonichi Weeks that I'm using for memory keeping. So I'm calling that my documenting notebook. So I have planning, doing, and documenting, sort of a past, present, future sort of setup. So last time we spoke, I really was just dipping my toe into this system. I wasn't quite sure how it was going to work yet, but I was sort of getting all set up for the year. But I am feeling a lot more confident now in what this is going to look like for the year. So I thought I would take you just on a little flip through of what these journals are looking like right now. So let's start with my documenting, my memory keeping book, because quite frankly, it's kind of the most exciting one in my opinion. We'll toss these over to the side and I will show you what's going on in here. Now the cover of this does look a bit different from when I set it up several weeks ago. I just needed the time to sit with it a bit, try out some different things, and I am really happy with how this is going right now. I did finally get my actual sticker set for the cover, and then I did swap out, you might remember, this fox being on the cover. I added the cow. This Beanie Baby was one my mom had as a kitchen decoration when I was a kid, so it's very nostalgic, reminds me of my childhood. And then did I do anything on the back? No, I haven't done anything on the back yet. But I did also update my cover page, mostly just adding a few new things. I added a wedding photo, and then I added this. Oh my gosh, I love this. In my stash of vintage ephemera, I had this cruise ticket from 1948, actually my birthday in 1948. And it's the same cruise line that ran the cruise, the only cruise that I've ever been on. So lots of memories with that too. I think this is so neat, and I'm so glad to have this. And I thought, you know what? It makes me so happy. Why don't I just tuck this in here? I did need to use a clear corner here to hold it down because it kept falling out. But get that tucked up in there. I don't know, it just makes me so happy looking at that whenever I open my journal. So I think that is a great home for that. I don't think anything else in the setup changed a whole lot. I did start adding some stickers to this page. I wasn't planning on doing anything to this calendar page really, but I've seen people put star stickers or just some sort of sticker on each month as it passes. I was like, I'm not really going to keep up with that. But then I got this star punch. So basically I can make my own star stickers out of any sticker paper or just any paper in general. And I caved. I went ahead and put this M sticker for my first initial, and then I've been punching stars out of sticker paper like crazy. So I'm making these little stars that I can continue throughout the year. Nothing here. And then we have the calendar pages, which I am filling in with just sort of a little overview of what happened that day with some sort of sticker that represents the day or just some words. I did ultimately decide to backdate December because I was so excited to work in this book. So now I can show you mostly finished page, unless I go in and add anything in these blank spots. This is December, and then this is my completed January. With my decorating in this book, I'm really striving for, I don't know that I've reached it yet, but striving for using at least like 50% recycled ephemera. So, of course, we've got my sticker packs. I love buying sticker packs, but then also using things like this Half Price Books barcode, or this Made in Canada sticker that came with an order that I had made, cut out from a chopstick package. What else? A sticker from a bell pepper. I don't even know what this was from. Probably some package of some sort. Coffee labels, more produce stickers. These are cut out from a label on an IKEA purchase. So things like that. I talk about it all the time, I know, but I love upcycling ephemera. And then the rest of this is just bits from my sticker packs, stamps that I have in my stash that I want to be using a bit more, washi. So that gives you an idea of what I'm doing with these monthly pages. And then I've got just a tiny bit of a start on February. So I will go ahead and skip to these daily/weekly pages where I'm filling in just a brief overview of the day in each daily section, just to avoid the overwhelm. I want to document what happened that day, but unless I really want to, I backdated December, which I was able to fill in using my journal from last year, and just adding in little stickers that represent the day somehow, like I decorated for Christmas, went out and picked up coffee, went to the vet, had a cleaning day, made some art that day. Just a little something to jog my memory and to, make the page look cute too. I'm all about that. I haven't filled in these extra pages for December yet because I was already busy backdating, but I'll give you a view of what December did end up looking like. I'd had a picture from my scrapbook that had gotten messed up, so I went ahead and cut out around this cute puppy picture and wrote a little bit about how silly she is and how much joy she brings into our life. But I still need to fill in some of that space. More December moments. We got Christmas. Can write about, we had a bit of a chaotic Christmas this year, so I can write about that in more detail there. And then we are finally into January pages. So we've got the beginning of the year here. This is just a sticky note sketch that I did, and I shoved it in there. But I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep it there or put it somewhere else. But I just added sort of a smattering of images that would recap the day pretty well. Stick this back in here for now until I add some journaling here. And then this week, I wanted to get a little crazy. I just turned this horizontal and filled in the days here, and I loved this layout. This might come up quite a bit more as I finish out this book through the rest of the year. I felt like this amount of space was really nice. I didn't feel like I had to cut anything or condense too much. And again, I've got some fancy little stickers, but then this is the label from the trash can that we bought from IKEA. That's what life was like. We got more produce stickers. This is a cutout from a can of crema that I was using for a recipe. Again, just cutting out as much junk as possible. I love it. I love it. I love it. Let's see. Have another week, lots of little stickers. I journaled a bit about my craving for simplicity. That was sort of my topic for that week, but I still have some space, so I don't know if I'll continue talking about that or if I might make another breakout section to talk about something else. I don't want to burden myself with too much backfilling, but I do love having a full notebook. I've got another horizontal layout. Carson was away on a business trip this day, so I put this sticker as just me and the dog hanging out waiting for him to get home. I had gotten takeout, so I put this little cutout from my chopstick package. Again, it really can just be anything. This literally just says ask for new low sodium soy sauce, which, isn't necessarily a sentiment about the week, but it's a piece of what life was that day. So I love adding these little bits. I've got another tag. I believe this is the sticker label from my Star Punch, if I remember correctly. Produce stickers, and then most of the rest of these bits are from these Swatelier sticker sheets that I showed off a couple videos ago, but I have taken those out of their packaging and just tucked them in here for ease of access because I am using them constantly, as you might be able to tell from these pages. And then we come upon this past week. So this might actually be the first proper breakout journaling that I did for all these pages. We went to see Iron Lung. That was a whole lot of fun. So I added some relevant stickers, used some magazine cutouts for a title, and then wrote a bit about being so excited to go see that and what I thought of the movie. And that brings us to the end of January. It feels like these pages go so quickly because realistically, I'm only filling out 4 to 5 spreads per month, but I prefer having it more condensed, having a lot of information pressed into just a few pages rather than trying to fill out an overwhelming amount of white space. I'm loving how this is turning out. And following that, we have my individual notes pages, which I'm using for even more additional journaling, stuff that maybe isn't particularly relevant to one particular week, or maybe it is and I just, didn't have enough space for it. So I thought I could give you a little tour of what I'm doing here too. So my opening page is what I called my time capsule. I had found this old worksheet from first grade called My Personal Time Capsule, and it had all these questions like, what's your favorite color, your favorite book, favorite pizza topping? And the more I looked at it, the more I was like, you know what? I would love to recreate this. I haven't written down what my favorite color or my favorite animal or whatever is in many years. So I thought that would be a fun little time capsule to be able to look back on this year and remember what my favorite things were, where my mind was. So I took the time to do that. So I copied most of the categories that were from that first grade worksheet and then added a few more, took a few out just based on what my life looks like right now. But I thought that will be so fun to look back on. And then in the empty space, I photocopied the worksheet that I had filled out back in first grade. I thought that would be fun to kind of have those side by side. Then I made a tiny little photo strip printout of a picture of me from when I first filled this out, and then a more recent picture to show sort of who I am when I was filling this out this time. That was so fun. This page has yet to get its actual journaling on it. I had put together a found poem from a cookbook. I was just cutting out words, rearranging them, and ended up with a poem that is sort of about journaling, but using all of the baking terms that came from this cookbook. So the poem says, "Attention doesn't have a long shelf life, so use it up by baking a message. You don't need to be sweet or develop a better taste. Pour the writing. You can taste the difference, for this book has a magic all its own." So I loved putting that together and thought it was so relevant to this book that I went ahead and just taped in a cutout from the cookbook and then added those words on top of it. And then maybe I'll write a little bit about how I put that together and what it means to me once I get through that. And then, this is my embarrassing page. Back like a year ago when the Hear Me Out cake trend was going on, where essentially, if you're unaware, if you're blissfully off the internet, people would like make little cutouts of different characters or people or things that they found attractive and would put them on like a little popsicle stick or something and stick it into a cake, and then they'd go around the circle with their friends and put them in, watch everybody's reactions. It was a whole funny thing. And my friends and I had actually talked about doing this and we just never got around to it. But I still had my list of submission ideas on my phone. And I was like, well, now these are just on here. Now this is weird. So I decided, you know what? It would be fun to just document this in my journal. And then it's off my phone. I can look back on it for posterity, even though nothing's going to come of this. I did cover them because I was like, listen, I love you guys, but I don't think you need to know that much about me. You know, this is between me and my friends. But unfortunately, despite the silly and awkward content, the page turned out so cute. And I'm like, okay, well, now I want to show my friends on YouTube this cute little layout, but I don't want everyone to know what my submissions were. So there you go. There's my little overview and summary of that. And then I think, I have a couple of additional pages of more private journaling, which is another reason that I am really liking this layout, because I love to share these pages with you guys. I love getting to come on here and show videos, show off my journals, watch your guys' journals. But I had found when I started sharing my journals online that I started to pare back what I was willing to put into writing in my journal because, it's available for public consumption then. So I do have a few pages of private journaling. A lot has been going on. The world is overwhelming. So I just needed a brain dump about that. And now there is a perfect space for that I can look back on someday when I'm looking back at what the year 2026 looked like. I have that very honest information in here, but I don't need to share it with the whole world, which is a great setup for me. So that wraps up what my memory keeping journal looked like this month. I do think it's about time that I invest in one of Hobonichi's little elastics that helps kind of either keep your page or helps keep the book closed, because it's January and it's already chunky enough that this thing is not staying closed. So we will see about what we're going to do about that. But now I'm going to pull out my less aesthetically pleasing books, I guess, but I feel like it's worth showing what these messier books look like too and what kind of work I'm doing in them. So next, let me I've got my past, present, and future books. So we finished past, let's work through my present book and what I've gotten done this month. So this book is mostly full of my writing ideas, creative writing type things, projects, etc. And my goal is to, ideally in the next couple of months, but especially before the end of the year, finish this notebook, because I've been working through it for ages and ages, so that I can condense a lot of the books that I already have started, that I can work through and finish my half-finished books, and then I'm down to just the books that I'm working in, if that makes sense. So I had gotten an assignment to write a quiz for a magazine, so that is sort of my brainstorming for that. Just an art project idea that I wrote a little bit about. Clearly didn't get that far into brainstorming. The beginnings of a poem that didn't really go anywhere, but I've got the space to work through those if I want. I started a website update, got that mostly done. It could definitely use some tweaks still, but kind of using these pages to just write what needs added, what needs changed. This page, that's right, I had been watching a video, and it was actually in the comments of this YouTube video that I had seen someone talking about their childhood and their fond memories of being with their grandparents, and someone responded to that comment, "You should write this, you should write your story and your memories." And between those few people talking, I was inspired to write out sort of the bullet points of, like, if I were to write the story of growing up with my grandparents, what would I write about? My memories of their houses and what we did, the foods that my granny would always make for us. It's not even approaching even a draft of an essay or anything. It is just sketching out the thoughts, but we'll see if I take it anywhere. Mostly just getting my pen onto paper. And then these next couple of pages I was reading. Actually, let me go get it. I've been reading Traveling Mercies by Anne Lamott. And if you've read anything from her, she has an incredibly strong writing voice. And something about just reading through some of these essays and thoughts made me think through a not even really relevant memory of kind of what made me decide to go to school for writing and what that experience was like. Again, just kind of a sketch of what I would write about if I were to dive into that. So I do want to dig a little deeper into these because this really was just my brain was moving faster than my hands could move. So I was just sketching out these ideas. And from reading this book, I started a list called My Own Traveling Mercies, because this book is what I would call a collection of memoir essays of Anne Lamott's experiences with faith and sort of defining what that means for her and her encounters with the divine. So I thought that was so interesting, and I was like, if I were to write that book myself, it would be completely different, first of all. But if I were to write that book myself, if I were to compile the stories that have sort of defined how I view faith, I was like, what would that look like? And this is just another list of things that I would really like to explore in writing. But I was getting all the inspiration, but not the time to sit down and really dive into trying to write. So there is a long list of writing prompts for me when I sit down and need a little something to get me going. This is actually, it's gotta stay secret for a little bit. I was working on a new children's book. So we're shopping it right now, my friend and I, so we're gonna see where this goes, but the working title is B is for Brave. So hopefully I might be able to share more of this with you soon, but for right now, I have to keep this a little bit covered up because it is on its way to editors right now. And that does it for what I've gotten done in this book this month. It's odd because it does feel like, wow, I've been filling this book out so quickly. Am I just writing so much more this month? When in reality, I think it's just that everything that I have in my wide assortment of notebooks is just getting put into this one book. So it feels like a lot. But this is actually just a random book that I've had laying around in my stash. It is from the Dana Lee collection. I think I had gotten it at like Home Goods or something in 2016. So that's how long this book has been sitting in my stash. But then that leaves us with one more book, my planning book, aka just a regular planner. This planner is another Hobonichi Weeks. These are the exact same book, just with a different cover. And this is going to look a lot less exciting, I'm sorry to say. This book is purely for keeping my brain organized in any sort of way, so it's very minimal for the sake of being able to look at it at a glance and see exactly what I'm looking for. I love decorations like this, but if this was what I was having to sift through to figure out my to-do list and what urgent tasks I need to be prepared for, I wouldn't get anything done. So this is my January, just a collection of the few things that I had scheduled for the month. And then I can show you my weekly pages as well. I think I've already mostly talked through my process on here in previous videos, but just as a quick little overview, and then I'll show you sort of how that's been working out. I've got this far right column for just the events of the day. So anything that I kind of need to build my day around because it might be time sensitive or just something significant that I need to remember, that goes over there. And then the left-hand side is for my to-do list. I will write out just any tasks that I'm really, really hoping to get done that day. So this was my first week using it because it was the first week of the new year. I had been doing meal planning, groceries, random little notes just to remind myself. And then I had been using sticky notes for my video notes. I just leave those in there. I mean, it's not like I'm going to need to reference them again, but I don't know. I think it's fun to leave that in there for reference, and then I can't lose them when I am actively using them. So that's where those live. Another week of to-do lists, meal plan, groceries. I had started a to-do list, and you'll see this morph a little bit in coming days of how I've been using that. I had a list of video ideas, more to-do lists. This is where I started my rolling to-do list. So when I do inevitably think of a project that, oh man, I really need to be working on that, but then I also have 10 other projects that I really need to be working on, it goes on this rolling to-do list. And by rolling, I literally mean I will write that to-do list, maybe schedule a couple of things out for the week that I'm in, and then the next week, whatever didn't get done gets put on this list again. And then this week, I actually had divided it up into like, this needs to happen this week versus it's pretty urgent, but like it's mostly just a goal. It's not going to be do or die. And then just it can wait. I have an it can wait column for, I know this is in the back of your mind, but you don't need to be worrying about it right now because you've got to be worrying about this list. And I have been carrying this over into my week every week. And it is, I hate to say it, it might be a game changer. This week, I just had it as stuff to do this week and upcoming things so that these can stay on the back burner in the back of my mind. And these I can look at and go, okay, well, if I want to get this done this week, what day is it going on? When am I going to do that? And I've done some highlighting in here as well for like super urgent stuff. Like I had a writing assignment due this day and I was like, okay, I cannot forget this. So I highlighted it bright orange so that I wouldn't forget. Maybe one of these days I'll film like a plan with me video so that you can kind of see the process in action. Because I know like this looks messy, but in my mind I'm like, oh no, this makes perfect sense. I can see exactly how the system works. So maybe I'll do that at some point. But a very short and sweet, simple setup for this book. So I think that gives a pretty solid overview of what I've been doing in these books this month. If you have any questions about this setup or just commentary in general, the comments are always open. I love hanging out with you guys in there and chatting about journals. I would love to hear how your journals are treating you so far this year. I know January is often a time of getting new journals and trying out new things. So now that we're in February, it's kind of calming down. I feel like we're settling in a little bit. So please do share about your journals. I love trading inspiration with you all, seeing what you're up to and maybe implementing some of that into my systems. I want to thank you for always sharing your thoughts on this because journaling is such an intimate practice. So being able to open up and chat with other journalers, it means a lot. It's a lot of fun. I will certainly be back soon to chat more about it. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.